What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Today we are actually going to be going over another one of my made deck profiles that I've come up with. This is most likely what I'll be running for Season 3, and you can tell by the title that it is going to be Salamangreats. So Salamangreats is a deck that I actually have in real life, and so I really wanted to make this deck in Master Duel so I can actually play it to its fullest ability. And so, getting right into the video, let's go ahead and just jump into it. I'm super excited to build this deck for you guys because it is something that I've really wanted to do. I actually made a whole other account so I can build this deck from scratch, have all the cards I need. And so, getting into it, you'll see that this deck has a ton of hand traps in it, because this is going to be a meta rival. I feel like this deck is super good, and I haven't ran into a single Salamangreat player while I'm playing ranked, and that baffles me. This deck is so crazy. It's at least a tier 1 rogue strategy, and maybe even just tier 2 overall. A lot of players have been really struggling in the Eldritch matchup and the Drytron matchup that I've seen, and this deck is an Eldritch killer. If you're having issues with Eldritch, I would recommend trying this deck. I'll explain it. Let's get into it. So starting off, we have 3 copies of DD Crow. So DD Crow is a crazy good card. It's an older card, but it's one of the first hand traps that was ever introduced in the game. And so what DD Crow does is that you can discard it and then target one card in your opponent's graveyard and banish that target. Now, this works for the Eldritch cards. When they have their traps in the grave, you can banish their traps. You can stop a ton of other things. A lot of rogue decks play out of the graveyard, and DD Crow just stops cards coming out of the graveyard. It's a super good card. It is super applicable, and it's only an SR in this game, so it's super easy to craft. Getting into a little bit of the harder URs to craft, we do have Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is, of course, discard this card to negate one monster's effect on the field. 3 copies. This card can be switched out with Infinite Impermanence if you've already crafted that, but I think Effect Veiler and Infinite Impermanence are one and the same almost. Effect Veiler is a little bit more of a budget version, but in this game, they're about the same. So I prefer the Effect Veiler just because, honestly, he looks so sick. Look at him. Okay, getting into, of course, we have 3 Ash Blossom. The most generic hand trap in the game. This card stops searching, it starts special summoning from the deck, it starts Foolish Burial, everything like that. Definitely, if you don't have Ash, craft them. 3 of them at least. And you get 1 for free, so you only have to craft 2. I definitely recommend having Ash, and we do run it at 3. It's super important. Getting into the actual bulk of the deck now, we have Flame Buffalo. Flame Buffalo is an interesting card. You'll find when you watch Salamangreat deck profiles, they're running Lady Debug. I don't like this card. I personally believe Flame Buffalo is the best card in the deck. So when this face-up card leaves the field, you can discard a Cyber Sponsor and then draw 2. And so this card is interesting because this card actually beats Ash Blossom. This card can be chain blocked when you go into Salamangreat Baylings. So you can summon Flame Buffalo, send it off the board to link into Baylings because it only takes 1 level 4 lower Cyber Monster. And then you can activate Buffalo effect to draw 2, and then chain Baylings effect, and they are not able to stop your draw 2 from Flame Buffalo. So it is actually chain blockable. You cannot get ashed with this card if you play correctly. And so that's why I run Flame Buffalo over Lady Debug. And it's also a fire, so it can be brought back with Sunlight Wolf and everything like that. The next card is 3 copies of Salamangreat Foxy. This card, oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, this card is sleeper. This card is so good, this format. This card, all of you guys who are struggling with Skill Drain, with Mistake, with Imperial Order, this card outs it. I'll explain. This card outs Skill Drain. It's insane. So, not only when he's normal summoned is he a Pot of Duality for Salamangreat cards, which is already a freaking awesome effect, but if this card's in your graveyard and a face-up spell or trap card is on the field, Skill Drain, Imperial Order, all that stuff, those are face-up spell and traps on the field. You could discard a Salamangreat card, special summon Foxy from the grave, and then destroy a face-up spell and trap card on the field. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, Skill Drain would negate his effect when he's on the field. His effect resolves in the graveyard, so it isn't out to Skill Drain. You can absolutely destroy Skill Drain with this card. So, definitely 3 of. This card is insane. I love this card. And then we have the 1 Gazelle. Unfortunately, Gazelle's at 1, but this is basically your Stratos of the deck. So if this Salamangreat monster, if a Salamangreat monster leaves your field, is sent to the graveyard. You can special summon this card from your hand, and then it searches a Salamangreat card. Any card. It could be a monster, it could be a spell, and it's crazy. And then we run Salamangreat Gazelle in conjunction with 3 copies of Salamangreat Spinny. Spinny is, oh gosh, Spinny is literally like the lifeblood of this deck. He's so good. He's definitely, I want to see Spinny in my hand more than often than anything not, because if you control a Salamangreat card, namely Gazelle or anything like that, you can discard this card, then target a face-up monster on the field, and it gains attack. That effect is awesome, but we really want that card for the discard, because once Spinny's in your graveyard, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. So you'll find in this deck there's a lot of cards that actually discard, and getting Spinny into the graveyard is a blessing. You want to discard Spinny, and you want to send him to the grave so you can just get that free special summon to Link Climb, to go into NXT's monster, something like that. And then we do run 2 of the level 4 Salamangreat monsters. We are running 1 Falco. Falco is, he's okay. I really only use Falco to go into Baguska or Abyss Dweller, but he does have a little bit of utility in the deck. So yeah, so with Falco, we only run the 1. He can basically just reset a Salamangreat spell or trap card, and that does come up. That is very good, but I just don't really use that effect that often. And then we do run the 1 Jaguar. A lot of people will run this card at 2. Especially with running 3 Pot of Desires, but I find that the consistency in this deck, 1 is enough, and I would rather run other cards than a second Jaguar. So this card is really the facilitator. He does inflict piercing battle damage, but you don't really use him for that. So he is, when he's in the grave, you can target a Salamangreat monster in the grave, and then shuffle it back into the deck, and then special summon this card. So he recycles your Spinny, he recycles your Gazelles, he also recycles your Link monsters. So this deck is super good at recursion. It's really good at playing the long game, and that's where the strength of this deck comes in. It is super grindy, and you are able to really outsource the opponent. I really haven't seen a deck that's better able to use its resources more, maybe aside from Sky Striker. And then going into the spells. So going into the spells, we do have 3 Pot of Desires. I don't really have to explain this card. It's just banish 10, and then draw 2. It can be ashed, but also this deck doesn't need that many materials, so banishing the 10 isn't that big of a deal. I still think it's a +2. Going into one of our searcher cards, we do have Signet Mining at 2 copies. So Signet Mining is send 1 card from the hand to the graveyard, discarding a card. It's like Spinny or anything like that. And when a Gazelle and a if a Salamangreat monster is sent to the graveyard, you can also special summon your Gazelle. So there's a lot of plays that can come into this with Signet Mining, and it also just adds a level 4 or lower Cyberse monster from the deck to your hand. So it's just a really good searcher. You can search anything with it. Our 2 Salamangreat spells, well, we do run 4, but the 2 single ones are Salamangreat Sanctuary. Only run 1. This card, you don't want to draw it, just because it is searchable off of Balinks, and it allows Salamangreats to really do their thing. They have like a Resurrection Link summon mechanic where they can use themselves as a material, and that's really all you use it for. It does have a life gain effect, but I don't ever really use it, only when it's in clutch situations. And then Will of the Salamangreats. This card is one that you could definitely put to 2. This card is super good. It's basically an old soul charge for the deck. It's basically a once per turn special summon from the hand or graveyard, or if you have a Link that was used, if you have a Link monster whose material was the Link monster itself, you can special summon up to the Link rating. So Will of the Salamangreats is a really crazy card. And then for the next other spells, we do have 2 Forbidden Chalice. This is just like another effect Veiler kind of card. It kind of comes up clutch sometimes, and it's also just to boost your monsters for 400 attack. Forbidden Chalice, if you don't have it, it's only a rare, craft 3, you can run it in every deck. And then the next little piece of Eldritch killer is Cosmic Cyclone. So Cosmic Cyclone, you do have to pay 1,000 life points to target a spell or trap card on the field, but it banishes it. This means Eldritch players aren't going to have their trap cards in the graveyard to use those effects. Cosmic Cyclone is super good against the Eldritch because it banishes, doesn't destroy. So yeah, going into the next 2 cards is 2 copies of Salamangreat Circle. This is like Signet Mining, but it searches Salamangreat cards. It's basically a Rhoda of the deck, a reinforcement of the army, but it also does have a second effect where you can target one Salamangreat Link monster you control that was Link summoned using a monster with its same name as material, and you can make it unaffected by monster effects. That does come up sometimes, but I find running 2 Signet Mining and 2 Salamangreat Circle works perfectly. And then the last couple cards in the deck are Salamangreat Rage. This card is super, super good. So you can activate one of the effects, send a Salamangreat monster from your hand or face it to the graveyard, then target a card on the field, destroy it. That alone is already really good, but if you have a resurrected Salamangreat Link monster, you can destroy up to the monster's Link rating, so you can get a +2 or a +3. And everything. And that is recurred with other cards like Sunlight Wolf and everything like that. And then we do run 3 copies of Solemn Strike. This card is super, super good. I wouldn't recommend crafting it just because there's a lot better cards to craft. And you do start off with the Solemn Judgment, but Solemn Strike has become pretty clutch. And if you do have the spare UR points, look into it if you don't have it. We run 3. It stops any special summon monsters or a monster's effect for only 1,500 life points. And then the last card is Salamangreat Roar. Salamangreat Roar is basically a Solemn Judgment for Salamangreat monsters. And then like that. But if you have a resurrected Link monster, you can set the card again and then banish it. So you basically get +2, but also you can recur it with the Sunlight Wolf. That is the main deck. It is 40 cards, and it was a little bit of a winder, sorry. But I'm super passionate about this deck. I love it to bits. Like I said, this is my in real life deck, and so I super, super love it. I love making it work, and like I said, I do think it is a high tier rogue pick. But nevertheless, oops, sorry. Going on to the extra deck, we do have the 1 copy of Salamangreat Mirage Stalio. This card is super easy to go into with Gazelle and Spinny, or Foxy and Spinny, or anything like that. Any of your ranked level 3s. And he's basically just another Salamangreat special summon. And then if he's Link summoned into a Salamangreat monster, you can target a monster on the field and return it to the hand. So that's also pretty good removal, and it's pretty easy to interrupt your opponents with like going into Sunlight Wolf or something like that. So only run 1 though, because he does get kind of clunky. And then we run 2 rank 4s. Granted, we don't usually typically go into these cards. If we were, say, to have the DPE engine in Master Duel, I would definitely replace it with this. But we do have the 1 Abyss Dweller, stops graveyard effects. We really just don't want rogue decks to really pop off in the graveyard. And then we have Baguska as well. Really good in the mirror match if you are ever in a mirror match with Salamangreats. But this card is just a stall 3, get what you need, build your resources back up. And then going into the big monsters, we do have 3 copies of Salamangreat Baylynx. The Salamangreat Link monsters are really, really important in this deck. I do recommend running 3 of Baylynx and Sunlight Wolf, and we'll get into Heatleo in a minute. But this card is your Salamangreat Sanctuary Searcher, and he's also protection. So when this card goes to the grave, and a Salamangreat monster you control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish it, and it's protected. So really, really good card. This is usually your starter, what you want to get every first turn. And then going into the Sunlight Wolf. So the Sunlight Wolf is definitely the most important Link monster in the extra deck, and probably the most important card in the deck. So this card is what gets you your recursion on everything you actually need. It's what makes the deck drive. It gives it all of its recursion, and the power of the deck comes from Sunlight Wolf. So at 3 is a must. Definitely don't run the deck if you don't have 3. But yeah, so when he's normal or special summoned, or I'm sorry, if a monster is normal or special summoned to the zone it points to, you can add a fire monster from the graveyard to the hand, and then you can't use that monster, but you do have it. And then during your main phase, if you control this card that was Link summoned using Sunlight Wolf as material, you can add a Salamangreat spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand. So this is what recycles your spells and traps, and Jack Jaguar recycles Sunlight Wolf. Getting into the next 2, we do have 2 copies of Salamangreat Heatleo. Heatleo is fairly good this format. When he's Link summoned, you can target opponent's spell and trap zone and shuffle them into the deck. That's really all you use it for. He does have a gains the attack, so he can get over any monster, but that's only if you use the resurrected version of it. And so it's not too good. We really only use him for bouncing the opponent's spell and trap card back to the deck. But 3 Baylynx, 3 Sunlight Wolf, 2 Heatleo. I only have the crafted one, but I will be crafting the second one, definitely. And then getting into the last 3 cards in the extra deck, this is kind of an alternate win condition for the deck. We do have Splash Mage. Splash Mage allows us to recur any Cyberse monster from the graveyard and special summon it. And that is used essentially to make a update jammer or a transcode talker. So usually what will happen is we will actually use Splash Mage to go in to recur any of our monsters. All of the Salamangreat monsters are Cyberse. And then, yeah. And then going into Transcode Talker, the special part with Transcode Talker is he's very, very good as a budget win condition, but we basically use him to make access code Talker. So we will go into Update Jammer, have Update Jammer in the grave or something like that, and then we will link summon Transcode Talker with access code, with Update Jammer. And Update Jammer has the very, very fun effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a link material, that link monster can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. And that means we have an access code Talker, which can completely clear the board with 5300 attack, that can attack twice. So it's essentially an OTK if you can get that with a clear field. So that is basically why we run Transcode, Update Jammer, and Access Code. It's just a second win condition to an OTK. So going over that is essentially the deck. I've talked really fast, but I do want you to know that I am super passionate about this deck, and I'm very excited to share it with you all. And that's going to be it from me. I do want to go over and shout out a couple things. We have 2 subs left till we hit 100 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. I'm going to try and do a 100 sub video if we do hit it and everything like that. I do stream on Twitch. You can check me out. All my social media links are in the description below. I would love for you to follow those guys and everything like that. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. You don't have to, but it does make me feel all warm and fuzzy inside when you do. Peace out, guys. Bye.